You're listening to Inside the Village, where all news is local and no topic is off limits.
So help me, Bob, it's bully in the alley. Hey, bully in the alley. So help me,
Across
Bob,
the
it's
Village
bully
Media
in the
Network and wherever you download and subscribe to your favorite podcasts, and we hope that ours is one of them. This is Inside the Village for the week of April the 10th, 2024, alongside Editor-in-Chief Michael Friscolanti. I'm Scott Sexsmith. Derek Turner, Executive Producer, is in the room, and the room, Frisco, for this week anyway, has changed.
Yes, don't be mistaken. This is not permanent.
No, it is not an
And
upgrade.
it was
It is an upgrade for this week.
And it was a lot more work for you guys than we anticipated.
Wires get crossed sometimes.
Literally.
Literally, yes. They've let us out of the cellar for this week only, and I think that's only because our guest today is the CEO of Village Media, our boss,
Yes.
Jeff Elgie. And I think it's more he probably didn't want to go down to the basement.
I think that's what it is. It's maybe a little tight, and nobody wants to be that close to each other, I don't think. We're all pretty close, but that's really close.
Yeah.
And, it's we've only been asking him for like a year and a half to come on the show, so finally he's agreed.
Well, I mean, we asked time and time again, and finally it took the launch of a major initiative, and we're going to talk about that with Jeff, called Spaces. We'll get to that shortly, and of course the first word to Frisco is coming up. This is one of my favorite weeks of the year.
Yes.
It's Masters Week.
Masters Week. I see the commercials coming.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah, and to be full disclosure, we're in a bit of an office golf pool, right?
We are,
We
yes.
are, right? And I'm doing very badly in it, as I usually do in pools. But I think I made the right pick this week. I'll tell you next week if I won.
I haven't made mine yet. I still need to do some research, some consulting, but I'll tell you, there is nothing like watching Jim Nantz on CBS Sunday from Augusta, that drive up Magnolia Lane.
It's pretty special. It also means summertime's around the corner, right? You can feel the springtime coming when you see the Masters. It's a great time of year for sure.
Yeah, and I guess in preparation for Masters, possibly a trip to the LCBO to stock up. And who knew? Now you can get paper bags again.
Or we
thanks
should,
to our premier.
Yeah, or not, maybe not yet, but the premier's asking for them. Yeah, you saw that. It's amazing what the premier can get done and doesn't get done, but he's written a stern letter to the LCBO saying bring back paper bags for the good of families who are having a tough time affording things.
Yeah, and to look across the network and see some of the comments from readers, just some very creative responses. But you're right. I mean, at a time when we have a doctor shortage, we have a housing crisis issue, we have an opioid crisis, but let's focus on bringing paper bags back to the LCBO.
And I hate to be cynical, but behind the scenes there's people talking about, well, okay, if we do this, it's going to get some good coverage, good headlines, make it look like something positive is happening. I am cynical about it. That's why they do these kind of announcements, right? They're simple, they're easy to understand, and they solve a problem like that, whereas all those other problems you're talking about don't get solved.
All right, let's segue to the first word to Frisco. An exciting week here at Village Media, launching yet another site. Welcome to the family, Milton Today.
Yeah, big launch yesterday for Milton Today. Our new editor, Steve LeBlanc there. Bam Bang Sadeo, a great reporter. Both guys have covered Milton for a long time. Steve for decades, and Bam for a long time, few years as well. They just know the community so well. They know all the different communities within the community. They started a few weeks ago, Scott. They hit the ground running. They had so many great stories ready to go on day one. Hard news stories, great features, really shining a light on important issues that are facing the people there. Great timing, too, because there's a provincial by-election there now. There's a seat up for grabs right in that community. So a lot of important news making headlines. And it's just so exciting to see because, we have grown a lot. Even since I've been here, we've launched a lot of new sites. And don't want to bash any of those other sites, but this one, I can't imagine having two more experienced people who are already in the community, know what they're doing. Sometimes we bring a new person on. Yep. They've moved to town. It takes a little while to get used to things. These two, like I said, hit the ground running. It's been a great launch. And more importantly, it brings our Halton region kind of team to four. Right?
Yeah,
we already have Burlington. We just purchased Oakville, and they've been revamped and relaunched. Halton Hills today with Melanie Hennessy, kind of the regional lead there. And now with Milton, it's a great team. It reminds me of our team in Simcoe, as I've said a million times. But it's really great opportunities for the teams to work together, covering the issues that matter there.
And let's be honest, we thought Pinkerton was a cool name.
Yeah.
Bam Bam.
I know, it's great. And man, he brings it like bam. He brings it. He brings it. No, great journalist, really great. And it's funny because it's a small world, right? The journalism and community journalism in particular. So a lot of our colleagues know these two guys already.
Absolutely.
And they spoke so highly of them when they applied for the jobs, when we interviewed them. They were thrilled when we announced that they were coming on board, and so it's been great to see them working. Funny story, Melanie's probably going to get mad at me for saying, but Melanie Hennessy, who's our editor in Halton Hills and who's our regional editor there in Halton and Niagara,
Right.
the first day Steve started, he went to her house and they spent the day together. She was, because they're close friends, right? And they worked together for years. So when we zoomed in for our first meeting with them, they were sitting at her kitchen table because she was over there visiting and getting up to speed in person as opposed to remote. So it was just great, just a great team atmosphere.
All right, welcome to the family, Milton, today. All right, this past Monday, solar eclipse and the coverage in the photo galleries right across the Village Media Network was phenomenal.
It was fantastic. I mean, I'm sure we all watched it ourselves or saw it ourselves, but just seeing the way the teams came together, and we're all over the province, right? So some of our sites were in the path of totality, some weren't, kind of had 85, 86% coverage, but just so many members of our team out there taking great photographs, not just of the eclipse, but of the people who'd gathered to watch it, and it was really awesome to see it. And Mike Purvis put together a great sort of across the chain photo gallery really quickly. Everybody filed to him, and it was just an unbelievable, like I'd say among the best photos out there that I saw were from the Village Media chain. So it was just great coverage all around from our team.
All right, and finally to Stratford and wonderful reporter Connor Luchka and the Stratford Swans.
Yeah. This is funny, right? Forget the eclipse, right? You talk about a crazy event, and I didn't know about this till this week, but I guess there's swans there that they have an enclosure during the winter, and then in the summer they let them out so they can go into the river there. What is it, the Victoria River? I think
so. Yeah.
I could be wrong. Sorry, but the images are like you feel like you're watching the people follow Tiger Woods at the Masters, like just rows and rows of people like with their phones out trying to take photos of these swans walking down a road and into the river. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And so Connor's right in there with a great photo gallery up in Stratford, and everyone I talked to in Southwestern Ontario, our team there, are like, oh yeah, this is a huge deal. It's a major event every year. So I had to see it for myself, and you should too.
All right, check it out at Stratford today. Okay, to the business at hand today. And today's guest needs no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway. Village Media CEO Jeff Elgie finally agreeing to be on the show, and we're going to talk about a major announcement that Village made earlier this week. Yeah,
this is about the Spaces Initiative. We've kind of hinted at it for a long time. If you follow Jeff on LinkedIn or Facebook, which a lot of people in the industry do, he's been talking about this very community-powered, hyper-local social network that we've been working on here for a couple of years now. It's really been something we've been working on for a long time. We announced it to our readers across the chain this week, an editorial explaining a little bit more about what it is and how they can sign up for the wait list. So we said to Jeff, okay, this is the time you're finally going to come on and talk, and he agreed, so we're lucky to have him come on.
Certainly are. Jeff Elgie, CEO of Village Media, joins us next when Inside the Village returns, right after this.
Reporters, editors, and journalists who go the extra mile to get the story and get it right. Go behind the scenes with those who cover the stories that matter most to you and your community. Look for it in the Village Features section of your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
When you need a mortgage, the right choice can really save you money and stress. With True North Mortgage, you'll get your best rate, better options, and timely advice to help you save thousands. Bring home your best mortgage today with experts you can trust.
Welcome back to Inside the Village across the Village Media Network or wherever you download and subscribe to your favorite podcast. I'm Scott Sexsmith with Michael Friscolanti, Editor-in-Chief here at Village Media. Derek Turner, Executive Producer, is in the room, and we're very pleased to have with us today, Frisco, finally, the Chief Executive Officer of Village Media, Jeff Elgie. Jeff, welcome to the show. It's great to finally have you.
Thanks for finally having me.
Yeah, we've been trying for 2 years.
I've been asking for 2 years to be on this show.
It's a long wait list, Jeff.
It is.
This will be your one and only chance.
That's right. So let's make it a good one. Okay, we're going to talk about a big announcement that Village Media made earlier this week, Spaces. We'll get to that in a sec. But let's go back in time if we can. First of all, Village recently just celebrating 10 years, but in the industry, still a lot of people just learning about us and what we do. So let's start from the beginning. Jeff, how did you get into the business?
Ooh, that's a really long story. I'll try to make it short. The first site in Village's network is our hometown flagship site, which is Sault today, here in Sault Ste. Marie. We, prior to Village, I owned an agency, a digital agency, that did a lot of the early stage web development work for the original Sioux Today. My brother was the lead developer on that. Our agency supported it, mostly through technology and a bit of design work for the first kind of 12 years. I then sold the agency, started a digital consulting company, started consulting for Sioux Today, decided I was interested in it, there was lots of potential, made an offer to the shareholders to take over Sioux Today, then bought out a local competitor, which was local too, and then amalgamated a sister site in North Bay called Bay Today, and that started Village Media 10 years ago.
Okay, lots to talk about today. Let's start with the industry as a whole. In 2022, the Canadian Journalism Foundation reported that since 2017, over 10,000 media jobs have been lost in Canada. More recently, Bell Canada in the last 10 months cutting 6,000 jobs, Metroland going bankrupt, the CBC announcing cuts upwards of 600 positions. Yet through it all, and including a worldwide pandemic, Village has been able to grow and thrive. What is it about the Village model that works?
Well, I would start by saying that we are born digital. It's a phrase I often use, and of course digital only. So first of all, we're highly focused on all the aspects of a digital operation, whether that's our newsrooms, our sales teams, the technology we build, our back office operations, etc. So that alone gives us a huge advantage in a world where obviously most of the audience has gone to digital. Second, I mean, we have technology background, and because of that, we now license technology to other publishers across Canada and into the US, and therefore technology is no longer a cost center for Village, but in fact a profit center. I would say the focus on digital, so aside of the fact that that's all we do, but the fact that we're focused on it gives us also a major competitive advantage over our counterparts who are having to deal with print operations as well. So they have to worry about putting out a newspaper at a certain time and all the logistics behind that, where we don't even have to think about all of that. And as you know, as you're part of the team, the two of you, this whole company is now built by people who've been around this business for, you know, in many cases the better part or all of the 10 years, and I would suggest are experts at this world that we live in today. So we have a lot of built-in advantages that others don't. Our headquarters here in the Sioux is a lot more efficient than having to have headquarters in Toronto, for example. We've centralized a lot of our infrastructure and operations, so our ad operations team, finance, HR, technology, central news desk functions are all here, which makes our local markets more and more efficient. And of course, now we have scale. So, you know, getting into this business today, just trying to run one site would be really tough for anyone, including for us. But because we have the benefits of scale and that central infrastructure and that tech as a profit center, we've got all the advantages we could ask for at this point.
I think we have the one thing too that's super important, and the fact that we care deeply about our mission, which is to provide local journalism to our communities. It's something I think it's fair to say that you didn't start off really knowing about, but have kind of fallen in love with, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and actually that's a great point, and I missed that. You know, we took a position early on because we've kind of been born and raised in the small community, and Village and Sioux Today have been brought up like on the ground, talking to clients, witnessing the impact that journalism and the commercial products, the sales team, have on people, businesses, and the community at large. You know, somewhere along the way, I fell in love with that, probably through starting, you know, Jasmine starting things like our Random Acts of Kindness program, and just witnessing the impact that a robust local media organization can have on a community. It's just, it's what makes this business special, I think, from like the local media operation, you know, outside of all the complexities of tech and digital like publishing. It's this relationship media has with the community and the impact it can have. To me, it provides for a huge sense of purpose beyond all the other stuff, for sure.
Did you ever find yourself sitting back and saying, holy cow, there's 24 sites now owned and operated. We just launched Milton today. Do you ever find yourself looking back and saying, I can't believe we've gone from one to that?
Yeah, well, for sure. You know, I think when I started it, I used to say, I thought we would kind of build it up across the north to the 5 northern markets and then sell it. And again, I think that what changed is that along the way you kind of fall in love with it. You build a great team of people up, and you don't want to get out of it anymore. I will say though, and I said this recently somewhere else, is that this company is about 155 staff now, and I think it's actually easier to run than it was when it was 15 staff. And a lot of that's because we've got more structure in place, but a lot of that's because we've got a fantastic senior team that, again, they're expert in what they do. They've got teams that they run. And so, I think one of my latest LinkedIn posts or Facebook posts, they said, this is just getting more fun, because in some ways it's getting easier. Not that this is an easy business. It's not at all, but
yeah. Let's be clear, that senior leadership team doesn't include me and Scott. You're talking
does.
about other employees here that are playing a key role. You talked about the business side of it, and I assume there's some risks involved too, right? I watch what you do. We talk every day about the business. I think of our launch of Trillium last year, too, quickly going in and scooping up the team from Queen's Park Briefing. I assume a lot of this is calculated, but there's some moments where you have to take some risks along the way.
Oh, yeah, 100%. We do that all the time, right? With a new market launch, with something like the Trillium, which was a unique project, which cost a lot of money. I think, as we often say, either you believe in the model or you don't, and we strongly believe in it. Doesn't mean we make perfect choices all the time. We certainly, whether that's building technology that sometimes doesn't work, and we're going to get into spaces because maybe that's one of them, who knows. But I think that the trick is that if the risk is measured, so that taking one of these projects on isn't going to put the whole company out of business, then you got to do it. It's business, right? Otherwise, I don't know what you're doing.
It's an obvious question, Jeff, but why is local news such a critical resource?
Well, you look at today, especially, you look at the impact that social media has had on society, on democracy, on, you look at AI coming down, generative AI coming down the pipe. There's just so little fact-based information available to people, especially in local communities where a lot of them have turned into effectively news deserts, right? So people don't know what to trust anymore. They sometimes believe what they're seeing in social media to be true. There's no balance in place. So like outside of all the warm and fuzzy stuff we do, like Random Acts and Community Builders Awards, et cetera, just the fact that we're providing the community with information about what's going on in that community and the people around them, it's critical now. It's scary, and I think we see that reflected in even looking at something as simple as voter turnout. Like, it's at its worst ever. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is because people aren't informed and they're not engaged in their community because they're distracted by this dumpster fire of social media now, right? And like every day you read about these companies now getting sued because they've gone out of their ways to trigger in people, like trigger engagement in people that's been proven to be bad for kids, bad for society, etc. So I think it's probably more important than it's ever been now to have robust, and I would say local news sources. There's always going to be great national news sources, and now all of us can find that, at our fingertips. If you want to read Fox or CNN or BBC or anything like that, you can do that in a moment, and those big good ones will always be around in some form or another. But I think local is what really brings us all together. Yeah.
You talked about the dumpster fire. We don't want to talk too much about it, but I do want to touch on the whole Facebook thing that's happened over the last few years. I know it's kind of old news now, but this was Bill C-18, the Liberal government's attempt to have big tech compensate us and all media companies for the content that appeared on their platforms. Right from the beginning, you were the one voice saying that this is a terrible idea for our business. Why was it, and how do we move beyond now that they have blocked us?
Well, yeah, we were pretty vocal about it early on. Our view in those days, this is dating 4 ministers back now, and probably 4 or 5 years ago. The government and the industry basically attacked this by saying they approached this by saying, Facebook and Google in particular are evil. They steal our content. They don't give us anything in return. And it was basically a bunch of lies, right? So first of all, they don't steal our content, as we always said. Like, we go out of our way to put our content on Facebook. We go out of our way to ensure our content is optimized to be searched by Google, because we had a whole bunch of traffic back from both of them, which is highly valuable to us. That's how we make money. We need an audience. Those are great places to build audience. I always used to say we like to abuse Facebook's audience to make it our own. And so our view is, if you want the platforms to contribute to journalism, then here the real problem is that they've created these not only huge audiences, but really great ad products that effectively have taken a massive percentage of the dollars out of the advertising ecosystem in Canada that used to support journalism. So going to those companies and saying, look, you're taking all this money out of Canada now, our news industry is dying. Would you contribute some amount to a pool to support journalism? I could buy into that. Mm-hmm. That seems reasonable to me. But instead we went along and said, hey, you're evil. You're stealing from us, and you have to pay us money for links. Like, no, it just made no sense. Mm-hmm. So here we are. Meta pulls out of the industry. We've lost all the Meta traffic. Google has stayed in, which is great. If they had pulled, it would have been an absolute disaster across the whole industry. But so here we're left with some money that we'll get from Google, but we at the expense of the Facebook, in particular, the Facebook traffic, Instagram included as well. Facebook historically has been one of the leading drivers of traffic for a news reading audience. But even beyond that, just from a societal standpoint, Facebook was that kind of passive ramp into news. So maybe you don't go and read your news site every day, but maybe you follow it on Facebook because you saw a story or two you liked, and so you get exposed in the peripheral of everything else that you're doing. But that alone keeps you somewhat informed, because once in a while you click, and then you click again, and then, by the way, maybe now I bookmark the site, maybe I subscribe to the newsletter. That whole behavior set is now gone. So unless you already are engaged in news, or unless you subscribe to our newsletter, which, let's face it, most 20-year-olds or 25-year-olds are not subscribing to local news newsletters, then you've lost that ability to get people into a news environment, to trickle them kind of into it. And to me, that is the risk to society right now, is that that's gone.
Have you been able to put together how big of a blow it's been to our company or to the media industry as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, before we went into the block, we had about 18% of our total traffic was coming from Facebook. It's always hard to completely measure because there's so many other factors at play, right? There's just changing habits at play, seasonality at play, et cetera, competition. I would say it's definitely made some impact, especially in our newer markets. So if you're in a market where we've been around for 10 or 15 years or whatnot, people have those habits, they know about us, they subscribe to the newsletter, they bookmark us, put us on their home screen, et cetera. They've held up fairly well, but even then they're not experiencing significant growth anymore. So at best we can kind of hold on. Where it really makes a difference though is in launching new markets, and that's something where we used Facebook historically as one of our probably the leading tactic for developing early stage audience. Mm-hmm. And now it's just, we launched another one this morning, and I hope Facebook's not watching this, but as we try now, we launch these new pages and wait until they find out that we're serving up news in Facebook. But for that week or so, like it was last time, it's like the good old days. You're back to getting organic Facebook audience and reach. People can share our content all of a sudden, right? Yeah. So we have these little windows of time that we try to sneak in under. So
just be clear. Go on Facebook, Milton Today.
Yeah, that's right.
We have an office pool. How long? Right, everybody picks a day.
Last one was 6 days. Flandreau was 6 days.
Yeah. So now we want to go for 7. Let's talk about growth. You mentioned the new site launch, of course, Milton Today, which was just born, and also no secret that you want to launch in Toronto. Are you worried that market has too much media already?
No. I mean, it has a lot of media that are covering things a bit differently than we do, right? So some great lifestyle products there, like BlogTO, Daily Hive, Narcity are serving Toronto. Some tremendous journalism there from the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star. And then you've got some small pockets of independence, and then you've got all the major broadcasters. So there's a ton of competition, but we're not just going in to cover all of Toronto or the whole GTA. We're coming in to cover a very specific geographic region aligned with the way that we cover our communities. So, and that will be really the downtown core, which represents a couple 100,000 people. And we're really going to be thoughtful about news that we can publish that's really relevant to their day-to-day work and living life. And, as much as the Star, for example, does awesome work, they probably have a lens of the more broad GTA, where for us, if we say, for example, send someone to city council, which we will, they'll just be thinking about that geographic region. Something happens out in, Mississauga or Vaughan, we really don't care about it. We care, but we're going to treat it like we treat one of our communities. So I think it's going to be a bit different. And, sure, we'll cover new business openings and restaurant openings like we do as a news site, but we're not going to do it like a lifestyle site. So I think we can, find our place. Is it a sure thing? No. One of those risks we talked about. But that coupled with, I'm sure what we're going to talk about soon is our Spaces launch. That's what we're waiting for, to do this just right. In which case, this is a product that will allow us to really dissect even that area into pockets, neighborhoods.
And that is a perfect segue into Spaces. Let's start with, what is it?
So Spaces, there's lots of ways I could describe it, but I will say the clearest way I can describe it is that it's our effort to win back the audience and engagement that local publications, or all publications, have lost to social media over the last 10, 15, 20 years. It is going to be a hyper-local social network. So it's not going to be the next global network, global social network. It's not going to be a social network focused on 20-year-olds. It's going to be focused on what's going on inside of our communities for people that kind of live, work, and really are our avid news readers, people who are engaged in the community, that want to know what's going on, they're settled, etc. For us, it's going to be different from social in that it will be hyper-local. So if you're in Sault Ste. Marie and you're a cyclist, you can join a cycling space. But if you're in Sudbury, that's a whole different space in Sudbury. So first of all, very local focus, much higher degree of regulation of user accounts and moderation. So big thing for us is taking the trust that we have with our audience as a fact-based local news publication now, and leveraging that into Spaces to create a much more safe and civil space for people to have these discussions. And it's that these are the differences, right? So think Facebook groups or maybe Reddit or Nextdoor, but then blend that with the DNA of a local news publication and integrate the technology for a pre-existing audience. That's what we're basically doing.
This is a project that you've literally been working on for years. I believe it was back in 2018, 2019, the idea first came up, right? And then,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we had an off-site event here at the office, and we kind of presented this notion of a community network at the time. And then after the off-site, then COVID hit us. And we completely lost sight of it. Like, we got distracted with COVID, of course, and doing a whole bunch of things just to get through that. Plus, the team wasn't around, right? When you tackle products like this, you need people in the room. It's just different. And so we basically completely forgot about it. And then I'm not sure what it was. There was some moment in time where it was like, there's this, we thought about doing this. We got to come back to it. It's important. And so I would say now we've really been into it for a bit over a year and a half, where we started thinking about it, consulting some tremendously smart experts all around the world about it, surveying our audience, running focus groups, interviewing people one-on-one. And now, of course, it's being built after many stages of prototypes and planning, et cetera. So it's a long thought out project, and we're pretty excited to be almost there.
I wanted to hammer that point home because this wasn't something our readers would have seen it for the first time on the local sites this week. Mm-hmm. We wrote about it. I don't want the people to think this has been a few weeks in the works. This has been a long time since I've been here. For a couple of years I've been hearing about this. What's it been like, the emotions going through it, Jeff? I mean, you've been involved in all these meetings for a couple of years as you see it slowly come together.
Well, it's exciting. I mean, I'll always say when we first seriously talked about it, say a year and a half ago, my kind of view was, if we have a 5% chance of success, then we have to do this, because, you know, we believe that if someone can make this work, it will be Village, because of all those advantages I talked about before. We're born digital. We have these large audiences in place. We're good. You know, we've got a great technology team that's capable of building this thing. We can fund it. You know, we also are going to go in this knowing that version 1's probably going to be garbage, and then we'll have to keep fixing it over and over again. So our view is, you know, we have to do it even if there's a small chance of success, because if it is successful, then never mind just for Village, but it has the potential to transform the local publishing business worldwide. You know, and you know, I guess this is the risk of talking about it so much, is that a lot of people around the world are anxiously awaiting the launch and the learnings from this, right? But if all of a sudden, I mean, what we learned early on in the business is that, you know, you need to do well at a lot of things on the content side to build audience, right? And you need to market yourself well to make that audience aware of you, and you have to have a whole bunch of great products to sell to make the business work. It's not just, you know, I'm going to put a news story up and sell an ad beside it. The business doesn't work that way. So we've got this complex scope of content, as you know, news, community information, some service journalism, some deeper investigative work, etc. But then we have like obituaries, and we have crosswords and horoscopes and weather pages. And so on the content side, we need all that. Spaces to us is a way to drive a lot more engagement in our existing audience, but also reach new audiences who aren't local avid news readers, daily news readers, through these kind of topics of interest to them, and then leverage that into a commercial relationship.
So when we made the announcement this week, people were able to sign up and join wait lists.
Yep.
Give us the elevator pitch. Why should people sign up?
Just because we want their information.
Edit that out there.
Yeah, no. That's totally true. No, I think it's just for them to get a sneak peek, or to get asked to be part of a pilot in some of these communities, right? So, you know, we don't expect that we're just going to open the gates to the whole world overnight. We'll start with one community, probably add a couple other shortly after that, but we're going to want to work with pilot groups versus just the entire community. So the wait list is kind of about, you know, being informed along the way, but also potentially getting early access to the pilots.
For the record, the tech team sits about 10 feet away, so they heard you say that they're the best tech team around, and also that the first version is going to be a disaster, and they're going to have to redo it.
Well, that won't be their fault. It'll be our fault.
Yeah, no,
I'm sure it will function just fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's been interesting because, like you said, there's people really all over the world who are in this industry that you would talk to all the time, that you're in touch with, that have seen you launch this, for example, on your LinkedIn page. And I've seen some of the comments of people saying, "Oh, we've been hearing you talk about this for a long time. It's exciting to see." What are people in the industry saying? Are you getting some people in the industry saying, "Wow, they're super excited," others saying, "What the hell are you doing?"
It's a bit of both, right? So one thing we hear a lot is, "Oh, well, other people have already tried that," which is obviously true. Now, I would say they haven't tried as hard as we have. My view is they'll go bolt on a third-party tool or whatever. You know, they also, I don't think, have necessarily it in them to be prepared to fail and to keep fixing and tweaking and tuning. But as a very smart person at Google said to me the other day, sometimes with these things, timing is everything. So if you look at someone trying to do this 10 years ago, when like Facebook was fun and exciting and engaging, and you got your news there, and no one talked about Facebook, you know, ruining kids' lives and ruining society, right? It was all rainbows and teddy bears, right? It was all good. And now it's a different world. I mean, I think those kind of companies have really eroded what their original mission, their purpose was, to connect people together, to connect communities together. And you know, I go there now, and obviously I'm biased because we're building this thing, but I try to be objective about what I'm seeing. And it's like, this is not about my friends or my community anymore. It's about things they know I'm interested in that will keep me there. Like, I like fast cars. I see tons of, that's nothing to do with my community anymore. You know, it's so there's so much of that, you know, in your feed that is now irrelevant. And so part of me thinks it's time, you know, it's the time to do it. And so when people say that to me, well, other people have tried it and no one's been able to make it work. It's like, okay, well, you know, we we have been doing this for 10 years, digital only, local news publishing. We know how to build tech. We listen to people, our audiences, our clients, that's why I think if anyone could do it, it should be us. That doesn't mean it's going to work. It means we should have the highest chance of success of anyone that I would know to attempt it.
One thing's guaranteed: we'll have you back in a year, and we'll see how it's going. That's
Absolutely.
Or not.
Yeah.
Lord will fire me.
Or us.
Or us. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been called a lot of things, and I'm
By
not,
you?
And I'm not. I was gonna preface that by saying not in the office, although that does happen from time to time. One of the things that you've been called is visionary. You don't look at what's happening today, tomorrow, or next week. You're not wired that way. You look 5 years down the road. So let me ask you, what does our industry look like 5 years from now?
You didn't give me these questions in advance. I have no prep. By the way, usually when I go to interviews like this, I get like, here are the questions.
That's good. I'm glad you pointed that out to people. Yeah, we didn't give you any special treatment
No,
because you're coming on our
seriously.
show. Yeah. Wait till you get to the last question.
Oh, great. So outside of this kind of hopeful win back that we're talking about with spaces, I think one of the other views I have lately is that for local markets, there needs to be consolidation of different media channels into what I believe we offer as a digital publication. So what I mean by that is, if you look at Sault Ste. Marie, where we are right now, we have a local TV station, we have 2 local radio stations, we have a weekly newspaper, we have a daily newspaper, we have us, and then we have another online competitor. The problem is that because audience is fragmented now and revenue is fragmented, especially with a lot of it going to platforms like Google and Facebook, that most of the publications or most of the media outlets now have eroded, they've deteriorated the quality and the amount of journalism. I shouldn't say the quality because that's unfair. They've still got some good people, but they have a fraction of the number of people that they had in the prime. And so I think what's happened is as audience shifts to digital, that is where most people now get their news. And I think we need to see consolidation across channels, meaning that, again, I humbly think that, for example, in the Sioux, if all investment in local journalism was focused into the Sioux Today newsroom, we could add a couple more people, but then provide the broadcast assets for radio and TV out of here, you would have a coordinated, centralized local journalism infrastructure that was able to do a great job. And so I think as audience erodes from traditional legacy television and radio stations, for example, and as newspapers continue to deteriorate, the opportunity for digital publications should get much greater. We should see concentration of the resources inside of this environment. Now, people don't like that because some people are attached to their paper, they're attached to their radio station, they're attached to their TV station. That's fine. I get it. Digital does not the be all end all, medium, but it is the best one. So if you have to pick, if you say, well, you're going to lose everything or you can keep one thing, digital will reach the highest percentage of the population at the lower cost, the most efficient way to deploy local journalism in my mind. So I think 5 years out, if we do a good job and keep at it, you'll see companies like ours really start to take shape and own that local media landscape.
What keeps you up at night?
My dog. You know what it is? I mean, a lot of us do this, right? You go to sleep and you wake up at 3 a.m. because you're thinking about a project, and so spaces now, for example, I wake up and think, oh, what about this? What about that? And if I'm lucky, I have my phone, I'll write it down or send myself an email.
Or send me an email.
Or that. Yeah, I don't usually do that at 3 a.m, but maybe at 7 when I'm up. But I don't. The worry in the business right now is the government's intervention in it. And it's not necessarily predictable. There's not necessarily continuity in it. It has a significant impact. The decisions the government makes, whether that's to fund journalism or to scare companies like Meta away. So that does worry me. I mean, we try to be thoughtful about what the plan B would be, as we always are. We anticipated that Meta might pull, and so a year ahead of time we started making different decisions. But that is one thing, is that we're not fully in control of this environment. This is not a normal private business to be in. I mean, I know government impacts businesses to some degree all over, but this one is a big one. There's a lot of interference, I would say. So that's one thing. as I said earlier, the business is probably easier to manage on a day-to-day basis than it was at 15 people. So I don't lose sleep about, a particular staff member or a particular client or whatnot. And I guess that risk is spread across many people and many clients now. So it's mostly just, the next thing, right? What to worry about next versus what to worry about today.
On a positive note, I guess, how gratifying is it for you to be doing this in the Sault, in Sault Ste. Marie, your hometown, a place you love? This is not a Toronto media company. Village Media is headquartered in the Sault, which I think surprises a lot of people when they first hear that.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, you guys know, you witness it. I mean, the Sault is our flagship, but even beyond that, it gets a little bit outsized attention from the corporation. But to be fair, it is our corporate headquarters as well. But we've been fortunate to make a tremendous impact on this community. I mean, you can't turn a corner and not see a client that we've dealt with, you not see an event that we've participated in, or a charity that we sponsored, or someone impacted by random acts of kindness or our Community Builders Awards. You just don't, it's really great that we can do such good in the community, and I think that's awesome. Toronto, we'd be just a blip,
Yes.
What else is awesome is we have dogs in the office, which you may have just gotten in the last shot. Just a couple more things before we let you go, Jeff. Quite often, all of us will go to you for advice, guidance, mentorship. Who do you go to?
I have some close friends, for many years that have given me guidance along the way. My parents. Some of our board, in particular, Michael Atkins, who was in this industry for a long time. I've been really lucky to have people that are very bright and very giving with their time for me. I mean, Michael, for example, will call me at least once a week, just checking in, and always has something, to say, which is usually very wise with me. But, the other night I had dinner with J.J. Hilsinger. He's always got great pieces of advice. There's a lot of people around me that have made a big impact on, me and the business.
Sure. If you had to let one of us go, which one would it be? You don't have to.
I'm actually thinking about it.
Who brings
I was thinking
more value
about both
to
of
the
you
table?
at the moment.
Yeah, it would be like a joint decision.
We're both gone Derek States.
It would be a joint decision, yeah, for sure. 100%.
Oh, I can't. It's like picking your favorite child or favorite dog. I can't do that.
Isn't that nice? That's nice. That's nice.
All right, look for spaces coming to a Village Media local news website near you very soon. Jeff Elgie, CEO of Village Media. Thanks for doing this today.
Thanks for having me finally.
We'll see you in a year.
Sounds good.
When you need a mortgage, the right choice can really save you money and stress. With True North Mortgage, you'll get your best rate, better options, and timely advice to help you save thousands. Bring home your best mortgage today with experts you can trust.
Reporters, editors, and journalists who go the extra mile to get the story and get it right. Go behind the scenes with those who cover the stories that matter most to you and your community. Look for it in the Village Features section of your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
Back to wrap on another episode of Inside the Village. It finally happened. The boss showed up.
That was definitely inside the Village.
It really was.
We definitely had a chance to understand a little bit more how Village Media works, and I hope that our listeners who do tune in every week and watch the show, and we talk a lot about the journalism we do here. I think it's really interesting to kind of see the guy who's running the show and making a lot of the strategic decisions and sort of steering us in the direction we've been going. This is an amazing story, honestly, Scott, and as someone who's been in the media industry for a long time. Jeff is a very well-known guy in the industry, but there's still a lot of people that don't quite understand what Village is and what we're accomplishing here, and they're going to learn in the months to come for sure.
Certainly are. Okay, before we wrap today, a sad note for the Village family as we lost one of our own, Chris Phelan.
Yeah, it's very sad news. Chris was a longtime freelancer for us in Elliott Lake, did a lot of great reporting for us in that community. It was his hometown. But he was a journalist, a reporter, and a photographer for a long time in southwestern Ontario, including at the Guelph Mercury, I believe the Wellington Advertiser. He passed away on a vacation overseas with his wife. We heard the terrible news. I believe, I know Carol Martin, our editor there, did a wrote a beautiful tribute to him on the site, talking about how valuable he was and the reporting he could do, and noted that his last story on Elliott Lake today was about the community's hope to win the Kraft Hockeyville contest, and why he believed it was a great thing for them and why they deserved it. And sure enough, it was something that they won. So yeah, just really sad news. I shared it with the team this morning at our meeting, and our condolences go to his family and friends and everyone who cared about him.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for this week on Inside the Village. Thoughts, comments, questions, by all means, reach out anytime, 24/7 at itv@villagemedia.ca. For Derek Turner, executive producer of the show, Michael Friscolanti, editor-in-chief, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching.
You've been listening to Inside the Village.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe, provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.